Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, this is Stephen Nill, CEO of CharityChannel.com. So, you want your charity to succeed? You came to the right place. Integration of online and offline techniques is the key to your successful fundraising, and practical advice on going green is what you need. With this show, The Nonprofit Coach with Ted Hart, you will learn from experts around the world who provide advice you can use. Our host is Ted Hart, one of the foremost nonprofit thought leaders. This year, he is celebrating 25 years in the nonprofit sector and the 10-year anniversary of his firm, tedhart.com. His books range from successful online fundraising to the use of social media and how to make your nonprofit green. His guests are leaders in their field who will share tips and trade secrets for nonprofit management, green strategy, and fundraising success. Ted lectures around the world, but now he's here for you. From the latest in charity news, technology, fundraising, and social networking. Here's Ted.
And good afternoon, listeners. Thank you so much for joining us here on The Nonprofit Coach. Today is Tuesday, April 5th, coming to you live from the nation's capital. And as always, here on The Nonprofit Coach, you can call in to ask questions of our Page 2 expert by dialing 347-324-3080. You can also join us over in the chat room. I see a few folks starting to join us in the chat room. You can ask questions there. Or if you're shy, you can also email me at tedhart@tedhart.com. But as always here on The Nonprofit Coach, we start the show off with Page 1 News. First up here on Page 1 News, you'll find over at tedhart.com. Click on radio. You will find the radio links and follow along with me today, and you will find the new Google for Nonprofits program that you can apply for. Nonprofit organizations, the benefits are Google Grants, YouTube for Nonprofit, Google Earth Outreach Grants, and Google Apps for Nonprofits. And this provides you with more of a Google Apps for Business approach, more of an enterprise approach to using the Google Apps. So this is very much worthwhile. We have the links for you over at tedhart.com. Again, click on radio, and you'll find the radio links where you can apply for the Google for Nonprofits program. Next up here on the Nonprofit Coach comes to us from the Chronicle of Philanthropy. Top technology executives have pledged to aid nonprofit organizations. We have executives from Apple, Google, Twitter, and other leading technology companies that are among 100 business leaders who have signed the Palindrome Pledge. What that is a commitment to spend a year lending their management expertise to nonprofit organizations. This was reported by Fast Company and the Wall Street Journal. You can read a little bit more about it over at tedhart.com under radio links. Next up, also here from the Chronicle of Philanthropy, is really great news for our friends in India. And I'm not going to do a very good job with this gentleman's name, but the Indian industrialist Gandhi Mallikarjuna Rao has announced last week that he will donate $340 million to charity. He is the chairman of GMR Group in Bangalore, and he is giving his entire 12.5% stake in a firm that he heads over there, and he is giving that to a foundation to create an endowment. So this is really a terrific group. He's part of a group of 70 wealthy Indians who met privately last week with Warren Buffett and Bill and Melinda Gates, who, of course, have been spearheading the donations of significant wealth to charity here in the United States and around the world. So we're very pleased to bring this excellent news and, of course, terrific news for our friends in India. I very much appreciated the opportunity to lecture and provide training to charities in India myself last August. In the coming weeks, we will be announcing this year's Around the World Philanthropy Training Tour, and India will again be included in that tour, which this year will be taking place in September. So for all of our friends around the world, we will be bringing nonprofit training, board development, online fundraising, and social media training, again, to various sites around the world, working with fine partners like the Fundraising Institute of New Zealand and others around the world. Next up here on the Nonprofit Coach, I have the distinct pleasure to introduce you to Chris Griffin. Chris Griffin is a friend of this show and is with the Association of Fundraising Professionals. He is their Professional Advancement Coordinator. And Chris Griffin has an announcement that he would like to make to our listeners today. Chris, welcome live here on the Nonprofit Coach.
Hi, thanks, Ted.
It's great to have you here on the show, and you have an announcement of a program that you would like our listeners to register for that's taking place on April 20th. We have provided a link for this over at tedhart.com. Click on radio for the radio links, but why don't you go ahead and fill our listeners in on this announcement?
Terrific, thanks. Well, Ted, you're actually presenting a webinar for us. We have a webinar series, and Ted is presenting a webinar on social networking and online fundraising, so which is definitely one of our hot topics right now. So we're very excited to have that.
That's terrific. Well, I'm honored to have the opportunity to once again partner with AFP. We had your outgoing president, Paulette Maihara, on the show last week, and we'll soon be announcing the date of the new president, Andrew Watts, who's going to be here live on the show. But tell our listeners who may not be familiar with AFP's webinar series, what is this series all about, and why does AFP consider it important?
Well, we've had a webinar series since 2004. They're an hour-and-a-half program with experts in the field on a variety of fundraising topics. We consider it important because we have a number of different ways that we're trying to provide education, not just courses, but other items like the webinars that are very easy. It's an hour and a half of time. For anyone who's interested in CFRE credit, it's 1.5 hours of continuing education credit for CFRE. It's something that we encourage our chapters to offer. It's a great lunchtime, sort of, if you're having a brown bag lunch kind of session at your office, this is a great item for that. Like I said, they're being offered by experts in their field and on everything from social media, online fundraising. We have a lot of stuff on planned giving. We have stuff on campaigns. So we're covering most of the fundraising bases.
That's great. Well, Chris, is this a monthly webinar series that AFP hosts?
We have them twice a month. So,
yeah. Oh, twice a month. Well, that's terrific. This particular webinar that I'm going to be presenting for AFP is scheduled for April 20th, and this is going to be at 1 p.m. Eastern. All the details are available over in the radio links today at tedhart.com. Again, click on radio. Chris Griffin from AFP, I really appreciate you coming on the show today, sharing us a little bit of background about what the webinar series is about, and thank you to all of your colleagues for inviting me to present this particular webinar, which will be on social networking and online fundraising success. Thank you for joining us here on the Nonprofit Coach, Chris Griffin.
Thank you, Ted.
Next up here on the Nonprofit Coach is just a wonderful service that I have shared with you before here on the Nonprofit Coach, but I want to bring it back to you again because they have improved the service, the reporting, and the online conference manager, and this is, of course, freeconferencing.com. So this is freeconferencecalling.com, and this is a free service that nonprofit organizations can use to set up conference calls. And this has been a fantastic service for a long time. What I really like about this service is that they will also provide free conference recording. You can set up large conferences. It's very easy to use. And again, as I shared with you, they have just updated the conference call reporting and the online conference manager service that they provide, so you can learn all about how you can set up a free conference call for your organization, which adds to efficiency. And don't forget, we also support the Green Nonprofits Organization, and so cutting down on people driving to meetings is a good thing for earning your Green Nonprofit certification. So you can learn all about that at tedhart.com. Click on radio for the radio links. Next up here on the Nonprofit Coach is just to remind you that we do have an excellent show for you today. Penelope Burk, who I will be introducing in just a few moments, is our Page 2 expert. She is our number 2 all-time live listener call-in show when she was on the show in the past. I'm going to talk to Penelope about that in just a few moments. So remember, you can call in to 347-324-3080. Get a chance to ask questions. It's like having a private consultation with Penelope Burk, and trust me, she's very expensive for her consultations. But today you get free consultation. When you dial that number, press the number 1 on your keypad. That will raise your hand on the switchboard and will let me know that you would like to ask a question. You can also type questions over in the chat room. We have a number of people over there, and I do see email questions coming in to Ted Hart at tedhart.com. Next up here on Page 1 News is seeking to answer a question, and this is a very important question, I think, for a lot of us, and the question is, what's best for my computer? Hibernate, sleep, or shut down? So what is best for, and again, we support the Green Nonprofits Organization. We want to make sure that we're doing the best thing for saving on electricity in running our computers. So in this particular link that you'll find over at tedhart.com, click on radio, you will find that it sort of depends on how you use your computers. In this particular article, they note that your work process will determine whether it's more efficient to use sleep mode or simply shut down the computer. It is never fun to have to constantly wait any amount of time to shut down your computer too frequently. Sleep requires more power, but it boots up faster, while Hibernate uses less power but takes longer to come online. So it depends on how frequently you're turning your computer on and off as to whether or not you should use Sleep or Hibernate. Of course, we recommend Hibernate. It's worth waiting a few more moments if you can't be that impatient, but it does save more power. It uses less power if you use Hibernate than Sleep, and you can read all about that over in the radio links at tedhart.com. Next up here on the Nonprofit Coach is just to remind you, a few months back we drew your attention to the 2011 YouTube Nonprofit Video Awards. I'm just going to share with you the little audio clip that we shared with you back then, and then I want to bring you up to date on what's happening with those awards.
Did your nonprofit make a video in 2010? Then now's your chance to enter the Do-Gooder Nonprofit Video Awards. Show the world all the great work you did for your important issues in 2010. Issues like the arts, health, environment, human rights, disaster relief, and so much more. Nonprofits of all sizes are welcome to enter their best work. We will award prizes to small, medium, and large organizations, as well as a special award for the best videos produced with a thrifty budget. Winning organizations will receive $10,000 in grants generously provided by the Cates Foundation, free registration for the NTC 2012 conference, video products from Flip Video, and your winning video featured on the homepage of YouTube. Winners will be announced at the 2011 Nonprofit Technology Conference in Washington, D.C. In order to participate, you must be a member of the YouTube Nonprofit Program. So if you haven't applied for this great free service, do it now. Show us the best and brightest nonprofit videos of 2010.
Well, the best videos of 2010, the 2011 YouTube Nonprofit Video Awards, have been awarded. The Do-Gooder Nonprofit Video Awards, presented by C3 Communications and YouTube, were presented at the Nonprofit Technology Conference, and I'm very pleased to share with you in the radio links today, you will find that the winners are Post-Carbon Institute for a Small Organization Video, and their video was entitled 300 Years of Fossil Fuels in 300 Seconds. Next up for the medium organizational video was the Ronald McDonald House of Austin, whose winning video was entitled Meet the Digits. Next, for a large organizational video, was the American Jewish World Service, and theirs was entitled A Public Service Announcement Not Approved by the American Jewish World Service. And for that Thrifty, that new category, the Thrifty Video Award, that went to Watershed Management Group. It's in Your Hands is the title for that. You can find the link at tedhart.com. Click on radio, and you will be able to actually watch each of these videos. And I have to tell you, there's more than one tearjerker among those videos. So one of the things that I want to make sure that all of our listeners do is plan ahead and register for the YouTube Nonprofit Video Awards program so that you are ready to go once they make the announcement of the deadlines for the 2012 awards. Next up here on the Nonprofit Coach is to draw your attention to a blog that comes to us from Bidding for Good. Of course, we've had the folks from Bidding for Good here on this show, and they've posted a really terrific blog in what they call the auction block. And this is one that I sort of want to explore with Penelope Burk today, in that they're raising this issue of what they're calling Generation Generosity, or Generosity G, where board members and underwriters come in and help nonprofit organizations. And so they're sort of identifying this Gen G, Generation Generosity, that is a concept, and they talk all about this in the auction block, and you can read all about it over at tedhart.com. Click on radio. So we're just about ready to jump over for our page 2 expert today. So stick with us, and we'll be right back. Penelope Burk is an author, researcher, and mentor celebrated for some of the most important innovations in modern-day fundraising. In 2000, Penelope introduced the concept of donor-centered fundraising. Today, Penelope's groundbreaking research continues to gain international recognition for challenging long-standing but ineffective fundraising practices and showcasing evidence-based methods that raise more money. Penelope Burk is also the author of the book Donor-Centered Fundraising. She also has a very successful blog called Burk's Blog that you can find at the website for Cygnus Applied Research. And she was last here as our guest on December 7th, 2010, and it had the second largest number of live listeners that day. Welcome here back to the Nonprofit Coach, Penelope Burk.
Hi, Ted. How are you?
It is great to have you back here on the show, and I know that one of the principal things that we want to discuss today is your new posting on Cygnus Donor Research Survey, Where Philanthropy is Headed in 2011. So in 2011, we want to learn all about what's ahead, but before we get there, before we start talking about, we did provide a link over in the radio links to Burk's blog, so folks can follow along there. But before we get there, I want to ask you to make sure that our listeners know, what is Cygnus Donor Survey?
It's a piece of research that we do now every year. It's a huge research study that we conduct in February each year to find out how donors are thinking, how the economy is affecting them, and most important, what donors are planning for their philanthropy in the coming year. As you could understand, and your readers could understand, listeners, most research looks back to see what donors did in the past, and this is very valuable, but it doesn't tell you what donors are going to do. So we started this study in February of 2009 in the depth of the recession, when everybody was worried about what donors' next step would be. And the results were so fascinating and so many donors participated that we have continued on doing this study every year at the same time. And this year the study just closed and 22,000 donors participated. It was just a substantial response, higher than ever before.
What do you attribute to having such a high response? Because, of course, I'm guessing that just makes the research that much more valid.
It certainly does make it more valid, because no matter what age demographic we look at or any other demographic, we have statistical reliability, which is really great news. But there are two reasons that attract this so many donors to the study. One is that we partner with not-for-profits who reach out to their donors, asking them to go online and complete our survey. And the second is that, to blow our own horn a little bit, we definitely ask different and very interesting questions. So we get many responses from donors who say, this is the most interesting research study we've ever participated in, whether it's about philanthropy or any other subject. So we're very proud of that. And those two things combined give us this huge response. And every year, about a third of the donors who participate sign up to be on our mailing list, and they are willing to do all kinds of research with us, and in return we provide them with the results.
Well, and the results, of course, are so important to understanding, what's in the minds of a donor, and your research has been so groundbreaking. I want to just explore before we, because obviously sort of the big news today is your findings of this particular study. But one of the statements that you made when you were with us last is that the essence of your research, if I've got this right, is to help charities make more money faster.
Absolutely.
Why is that the case, and how does your research make that happen?
There are really two big factors that contribute to profit in fundraising, and one is holding on to the donors you already have, and moving or encouraging donors to move their gift values up higher and faster than they would normally do. Those are the two things that cause the biggest gap between the value of the gift and the cost to get it, and contribute to the most profit an organization can make. You make some profit by having a lot of donors, but you make much more profit by focusing on a limited number of donors from whom you maximize gift value and increase the longevity of their relationship. So our research is almost always focused on those two things. How will donors stay loyal longer, and what do we need to do as fundraisers to make that happen?
And one of the absolutely shocking statistics that you shared with us last time, and I'd like you to reflect on it for our listeners today, is that 90% of donors stop giving within 5 asks of the first gift.
Yes, and that 90% is a national figure, and it's higher in certain not-for-profits. Not-for-profit organizations that are very prolific solicitors. In other words, they're asking every month or every 6 weeks for a gift from their donors, can experience a rate of donor attrition as high as 98%. So it's crippling, because all fundraisers know that it costs more to get a donor to give for the first time than it does to keep one giving who's already a contributor. And so you only want to make that high investment once, and after that you want to hold on to as many donors as possible. So the big problem.
Penelope, that's staggering, because what that says is that the long-term value of those donors is not very high if they stop giving after 5 asks. So what are charities getting wrong that's sending 90% of their donors looking for the door?
2 reasons fundamentally, and we asked this in every research study, and it stayed steady for 12 years. The number one reason why donors stop giving is over-solicitation. It used to be number 2. Now it's moved up to number 1. And the second reason is lack of good information on what happens with their money. Particularly, donors say they want to get measurable results on their last gift before they're asked for another one. And when those 2 things, when donors are not being over-solicited and when they do get measurable results, which unfortunately is only in the minority of cases, but when that does happen, the retention rate is significantly higher, as is the gift value, and consequently, organizations are automatically more profitable.
Penelope, this dovetails into our first email question that just came in from Julie in Chicago, and she's asking how much is too much solicitation. And you just raised the point that that's the number one pet peeve of donors as to why they stop giving. So how much is too much, and how do charities know not to do too much?
It's a critical question, and donors have answered it emphatically. So it's not a number of solicitations. It's not like 3 is okay, but 4 is too many in a year. Donors say that feeling over-solicited means being asked to give again before they're satisfied about what happened with the last gift. So over-solicitation and under-communication are inextricably linked. And it also means that the solicitation pattern is going to be different charity to charity, depending on the nature of the services they provide.
Yeah, and Penelope, does this raise the age-old question that always seems to get put on the table, but then gets pushed to the backdrop, and that is good old-fashioned stewardship?
It certainly does, because really stewardship is everything that goes on between one ask and the next. And once a donor has been acquired, in other words, they've made their first gift, they say that they make their decisions to give again or not, or give more, based on what goes on in between the solicitations, not at the time that they're being asked. And so stewardship is that all-important ingredient to profit.
Penelope Burk, I'm going to ask you when we come back from our break to give us some of those tips of what you've learned should be done in between solicitations to improve this 90% drop-off rate that the charities are exhibiting. Don't forget that when we come back from the break, you can dial in to 347-324-3080. Raise your hand by pressing number 1. Let me know that you'd like to ask a question. I have a number of people on the switchboard, but I don't know if you want to ask a question unless you press number 1. You can also join us over in the chat room. We've got a good number of people over there today. You can type your question there. Or as Julie just did from Chicago, you can send us an email at tedhart@tedhart.com, and we'll be right back. The sponsor of today's program is Pesci Law and Accounting, and they are sponsoring a webinar on building a powerful board that can fundraise. I'm very pleased that they've asked me to present this webinar, and it is available to you on Monday, May 2nd at 2 p.m. Eastern. Of course, you can find a link to register for this important webinar at tedhart.com. Click on radio. You'll find the radio links, and you can register right online. They also have a printable form that you can fax in or mail in. Now, this is one of the first times that I've taken my very popular Building a Powerful Board That Can Fundraise seminar and put it in webinar format. So I'm very pleased to have this opportunity to work with Pesci Law and for them to highlight this particular webinar by sponsoring today's show. So thank you to the folks at Pesci Law, and we're going to head back to the show. our guest today is world-renowned researcher and author Penelope Burk. Penelope, before we went over on the break, I was asking you about what are the concrete things. We were talking about stewardship. We were talking about this absolutely astronomical number of 90% of donors stop giving within 5 asks of their first gift, which is an incredible drop-off for charities. So what does your research say are some of the good things that charities can do to try to stem that tide?
There's all kinds of positive things, and luckily for charities, donors' list of what they need is really short. And the research that we have just closed this year with the 22,000 donors who responded updates our information on what it is that donors are looking for. And I thought your listeners might be particularly interested in knowing what we found out from donors about the impact of social media on giving as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, in your research, you found that, and this is, if I'm reading it correctly, this is the highest percentage of donors in your survey that have responded as saying that they plan to give approximately the same or intend to increase their giving over last year. That's the highest percentage reporting those numbers in the last 3 years. So this is good news, and I know that your blog says brace yourself for happiness. So bring us up to date on what is the impact of social media on these wonderful numbers.
Well, we were thrilled to find such good news. And we had 2 objectives in the 20 or so questions. Out of 100 that we asked of donors, we devoted 20 to social media and its impact on giving. And we wanted to know 2 things. First, is social media a worthwhile fundraising tool now, or could it become worthwhile in the near future? And second, do social media friends have influence in the same way that volunteers or donors influence other donors to give or to give more? And your listeners are the first to hear these results. They're not even published yet, so I'll be very eager to hear any feedback from you and your listeners on what we've got. But I'll launch into a couple of the key findings, shall I?
Absolutely. And let me just say thank you for announcing them here on the Nonprofit Coach.
Great. So first of all, out of the 22,000 donors who participated, 69% have one or more social media accounts. Of course, Facebook is the most popular, but there are others as well. And no one will be surprised to find out that the younger the donor, the more likely they are to be active in social media, though I think your younger listeners might be horrified to find that 63% of their parents and 40% of their grandparents also have Facebook accounts.
That's great.
So it's really growing. So while overall our findings about what donors intend to do with their philanthropy in 2011 are really positive and show an increase in confidence and desire, it's not as positive when it relates to social media. 57%, or just over half, of our donors who have social media accounts say they do not follow any charitable organizations through social media. Do you find that surprising?
No, I don't, because one of the things that our listeners are familiar with here on this show is that there are a number of things that we recommend that charities do online before they get to Facebook. Number one is a well-designed website with good communication tools. Next is a guide star strategy. Third is a LinkedIn strategy. So Facebook is number 4. So it doesn't surprise me because I think a lot of charities are not as engaged there.
Yeah, I would agree.
I'm interested in the 53% who do follow charities on Facebook.
Right. So those followers are not actually the heaviest users of social media. We find that respondents who say they follow at least one charitable organization were much more likely to spend 5 hours or less a week on social media or networking sites. And they also give less. So social media users following charities gave about 30% less last year in all, regardless of how they made those contributions. They gave less money to the charitable sector than did account holders who don't follow any causes. So so I'd have to say that to this point, whatever not-for-profits are putting on their social media sites is not really, it doesn't seem to be driving gift value upward at this point. So that's
and I think
pretty
part of the reason for that is that charities are not providing really inspiring content. They're using it more as a bulletin board than they are really truly engaging people in the social media way.
Well, that's fascinating because we asked donors as well what sparks their interest and what would make it worth their time to invest time on charity sites. And 65% of people who follow someone say they do so because the not-for-profit is an expert in its field. And, you can't just claim you're expert. You really have to substantiate that. Right behind that, 62% said they follow particular charities because they post relevant updates on the work that they do.
Yeah,
and I found
I think that really is the key here is are you posting on a regular basis? Are you an expert in what you're talking about? And I think that's where a lot of charities miss the boat on social media. But as I shared very quickly, and our listeners know, there are so many other things that I think charities need to be doing that will actually hit the bottom line. I think Facebook is important. I think 550 million people is hard to deny, but it is not, and your research is bearing it out today, and I've said this for quite some time. I Facebook, therefore I fundraise is not a true statement.
No, not necessarily. We also looked at peer influence, which is a big, big deal. And what I mean by that is that the mass influencers, people, for instance, on a Twitter account who will retweet what you post, mass influencers are relatively small in number. They represent about 15-16% of Americans who have social networking accounts, but they're responsible for over 80% of the brand impressions. So they're really your hard workers. And we asked in our survey who is active, really active in that way, and about 16% of our respondents who follow one or more not-for-profits say that they're more likely to take an interest in following if it appears on a friend's following list, which is, I thought, really interesting. So while this is definitely a minority at 16%, this group could include a disproportionate number of these mass influencers, making their real impact is much larger. So figuring out who your active followers are, who can actually do some of your work for you by broadcasting your messages and by endorsing not-for-profits on their own through their own accounts. That's the critical thing. It's maybe less of a volume issue and more of a quality issue on who's following you.
I'm just all smiles over here, Penelope, because as our listeners, those who have been listening for a while, know that what I've been promoting is this concept of finding what I call your Aunt Mabel. Because charities do want this to be a volume. They just want, where do I buy the email list? I've got 3,000 people who like me on Facebook, but I'm not raising any money, and they're expecting that it is a volume business, and it simply is not. And what you're showing here, and I'm wondering if you can help us sort of draw the connection between online and offline, is a minority of your offline contacts are also going to be influencers in your community. It's the same thing online. What we're looking at here is you're saying 15 to 16%. Well, that's a pretty good size number if you can activate that 15 to 16%. But I think what a lot of charities are trying to do is act as if it's 100% of people who are on Facebook or media outlets are influencers, and they're simply not, and your research is proving that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We also drilled down into who's giving. and whether social media is just sort of robbing Peter to pay Paul, or whether it's a real value added in fundraising. And this is so early in the game, but I think that your listeners might be interested in what we found. We asked everyone who had accounts and who gave to assess the overall impact of their charitable giving as a result of following through social media. And here's what they said. 45% of respondents said their giving increased overall as the gifts that were inspired through following were in addition to the gifts they made through other means. And 52% said their giving was the same. And only 3% said that their giving was reduced, which is really good news.
So 45%. Let me understand this. 45% said that their gifts increased if they were also able to follow good content on social media.
Yes. Now, we're talking about a small number again, just focusing on what you said, which is so important. It's 45% of a relatively small number, but it's still very encouraging, because if all that social media was doing was causing people who, let's say, used to give through the mail or give online to move that same gift value into a social media context, then it's not really adding anything except for the stewardship value of being on Facebook or whatever. But it seems like there is potential to increase overall giving over time, but it's definitely not there yet. And I think not-for-profits need to approach this in a much more sophisticated manner than they are doing currently.
Absolutely. I could not agree with you more, and I'm so pleased that now we have, and again, this is the hallmark of Penelope Burk, is that, we have things that are changing and growing in our industry, and now we have statistics to back it up. And one of the things that we've been promoting on the show, and I certainly have been in my presentations, is this notion of being more focused, is this notion of focusing on as you're saying, mass influencers, and we refer to them as Aunt Mabels, people who have followers, who are able to get content out. And share with us again that statistic. It's 15 to 16% of the overall contacts are likely to be mass influencers, but yet those 15 to 16% are responsible for 80% of the impressions.
That's right. It's massive. There's very little research out there in the for-profit sector or the not-for-profit sector so far, but it's starting to emerge. And I'd strongly suggest to your listeners that they follow as much industry research as possible to get an idea of how to find their mass influencers, and then how to influence them to do their job on your behalf.
Yeah. Well, and that's really the crux of it here is now, you were sharing earlier with sort of these dismal statistics of the renewing of donors over a period of time and some of the best practices there. And now it's time for us to understand what are some of the best practices for online. And it certainly is building an audience. I mean, that's part of what you need to do. But what we're finding is the notion of social media is that it must be social, and that people follow content that's linked to people that they already have a trust factor with.
You're so right. We asked a couple of questions directly on that. We said, if a friend endorsed a not-for-profit organization on his or her social media site, one that you had never supported before, would that influence you to give for the first time? And the question was asked on a scale of 1 to 7, with 7 being absolutely I'd do that. And it came out at 3.8, which is we're not yet in the enthusiastic range, but right. There's potential for donor acquisition through this medium. Now,
that's a bit lower than I might have thought that it was, but I also am guessing that it may have to do with the sort of the strength of that endorsement, and probably even has a stronger connection to those mass influencers. That someone who has influence and knows how to use it probably can endorse a charity and have greater results than someone who never done that before and doesn't really have a track record.
That's exactly right. We asked a similar question on, if you were already supporting a particular charity and a friend endorsed that one, would that influence you to give again? And that wasn't nearly as strong. And where I think, when you're early in a new media, early for fundraising purposes, some of the data, which may not look hugely positive, is showing an indicator of future potential. And as you and your listeners may know, donor acquisition through traditional means, especially through direct mail, is falling, and it's falling dramatically every year. It's harder and harder through that method to get someone to give for the first time. And a lot of the shift, as people shift away from the mail and into anything electronic, and particularly into social media, I think that will become the acquisition tool of the future. And the not-for-profits on the leading edge who take advantage of it now are the ones that get control of the mass influencer concept and don't just broadcast, here's our next event on their social media site, but use it to really drive home the results that they're achieving on the ground.
Well, I think that is vitally important that we are tracking that as a change in our industry. And certainly there isn't a charity listening today that doesn't understand that their results are probably going down, but their costs are going way up. So the cost effectiveness versus the draw on prospecting in particular is way out of whack from what it was just a few years ago.
I'd say besides the mass influencers issue, which is very important, that we're making 3 other recommendations from the research we did. I can't barely scratch the surface of the research on social media that we did in this study, but out of it all has come this.
Penelope, I'm just going to hold you because I want to hold everybody in suspense about your 3 recommendations that came out of your new research. We're going to take just a quick break to give away a little something, and then we'll be right back, and I want you to get right into those 3 recommendations that comes directly out of Penelope Burk's new research. We'll be right back. Our listeners know that for the last few months we have had a partnership with greennonprofits.org. This is a wonderful organization that seeks to help your organization become more green and move towards green nonprofit certification. You can find them at greennonprofits.org. Readers of our newsletter at p2pfundraising.org and the greennonprofits.org newsletter know that we have been giving away copies of the Nonprofit Guide to Going Green, and that this has been sponsored by Sanofi Aventis. If you want to learn how you can win one of these wonderful autographed books, then you can find that information at greennonprofits.org by signing up for their newsletter. So it is my privilege today to announce today's winner of the most recent donated copy from Sanofi Aventis of the Nonprofit Guide to Going Green, and that is Mary Ellen Hrutka from the Mid-Atlantic Catholic Schools in Annapolis, Maryland. So, Mary Ellen, congratulations on winning the latest copy of the Nonprofit Guide to Going Green. So, Penelope, we're back here, and I know that our listeners have got to be on the edge of their seats wondering what are those 3 recommendations that are now coming from Penelope Burk's latest 2011 research.
Well, number 1 is that since having social media accounts is now the norm for donors and is increasing among middle-aged donors and those over the age of 65, and also since donor communication and fundraising success are inextricably linked, it is critical that every not-for-profit who raises money has a presence on social media. I mean, this is no longer optional. It is a must-do. So that's
you've been pointing out for a little while that this has definitely, in your estimation, has reached beyond the tipping point. And is that because of the age demographics that social media is now reaching beyond younger users?
It's definitely because of age. It's not just that, but age is the big factor. And while it is critically important to develop loyalty and support among donors under the age of 35, even though they're not yet at a stage of life where they can give the most generous contributions. And too much about fundraising focuses only on donors who can give big without thinking about where their future is coming from. So, but it does make it a lot easier for not-for-profits to launch energetically and put budget funds behind social media when they know that both the middle-aged and the older donors are also in the game.
Yeah, so in particularly for those influencers that you want to connect with, they have a broader audience to draw from. And part of the research that came out, I think, last year was this shift, and as that research that you put out showed that it is even among donors over age 65.
Yes, absolutely right. So my second
So what's number two?
Yeah, number two is that the majority of account holders don't follow any charities, as I mentioned before. So not-for-profits really need to look inward. This is not the donor's fault, and we're very good in fundraising at blaming the donor for statistics that are out there. Like before, an example I can give to compare is that often donors themselves are blamed for being skittish or unreliable when they give once in, let's say, a disaster to an emergency relief organization and then never give again. But when we survey those donors about why they stopped giving, they say it's because they didn't get any information that would have compelled them to keep giving. So we've got a similar situation here in social media. If the majority of account holders don't follow any charities, it's not the fault of the account holder. It's the fault of the fundraising industry that is not showcasing their own social media in ways that make themselves irresistible and compelling to donors. So reviewing, it's not good enough just to have a Facebook page. You then have to market it to your donors.
Right.
And the
number two is you must
vibrant.
provide irresistible and compelling content.
Absolutely. And,
so what's number three?
Yeah, number three is while the influence of social media friends is not yet a big motivator to give, it's going to be. And the signs are there that social media will play an increasingly important role, especially in donor acquisition. So in light of the declining success and increasing cost of more traditional means of finding new donors, this is a new avenue, and not-for-profits should invest in social media as a means of expanding their donor base in a positive way, especially among donors under the age of 35, which is where everyone's future will lie very soon.
And I'm almost going to label your number three as and I think we discussed this last time you were on the show, is this is back to basics, Penelope. This is back to relationship-based fundraising, where this is not just mass appeal of how big my direct mail list is, how big my email list is. This is actually taking the time to build relationships with what you refer to as mass influencers. I refer to as finding your Aunt Mabel. But the key here is to provide compelling content, as you said, reaching out and providing that to people who can influence others. But that's how fundraising has traditionally really succeeded offline as well. It's not just going door to door. Certainly some organizations are able to do that, but the largest continuous money that's been raised for nonprofits has been relationship-based fundraising, where somebody knows somebody, makes the case, and makes the ask.
You're 100% right. And no matter how technology evolves and no matter what new means of communications emerge, people fundamentally need the same things in life. And you're right, that same basic powerful force of building a relationship with a donor, whether you do it online or offline, is the same. Donors still need to know why you're raising money and then what you've accomplished with the money. And only that will inspire them to stay by your side, stay loyal, and give increasingly generous gifts.
So let me see if I've got this right. I just wanted to summarize for our listeners today that Penelope Burk's 3 recommendations coming out of her recent 2011 research that focused, or had a portion of it focus on the use of social media by nonprofits is, number one, that we've now moved beyond the guessing game and the gee, that's new, but nonprofit organizations must have a social media presence. Number 2, they must be providing irresistible and compelling content if they want to draw people to them, and that the key to fundraising is back to basics, relationship building using social media.
You're absolutely right.
Well, that's great. Well, Penelope, I'm just going to share a little bit of information on technically what we call our page 3, and that is where you can find Ted next, and then I want to find out where people can find Penelope next. I will be speaking this week on Friday at the AFP Rhode Island Annual Conference on Social Media and Online Fundraising. That's being held at the Sheraton Providence Airport Hotel in Warwick, Rhode Island. So please come out and see me. I'd love to see you if you're going to be in the area. And, of course, you can learn more about that at afpnet.org. Just find the Rhode Island chapter, and you'll be able to register for their conference. You also can, if you prefer phone, if some people still use phones, Penelope, is that I believe that you can connect with Susan Pollitt, who's up there in Providence, Rhode Island. If you give her a call at 401-455-6581, she'll get you all set up for participating in this particular conference. Penelope, back to you. How can our listeners who have just had such a treat today with your announcement here on the Nonprofit Coach of this latest research, how can they connect with you and how can they benefit further from your research at Cygnus Research?
Well, we're offering a couple of opportunities for your listeners. One is that this whole research report, which the social media section is one of only 7 or 8 themes we've covered in the report this year, will be published within the next 2 weeks. And fundraisers will be able to get at it through our website, which is www.cygresearch.com. And I'm also going to be doing a webinar next month on the Cygnus Donor Research Study, and that's coming up for Canadians. We have a webinar on Wednesday, May the 4th, and for Americans, the day before on Tuesday, May 3rd. It's an hour to an hour and a half webinar where I'll walk people through the key findings of what is turned out to be an extraordinary research study.
That is really terrific. And, of course, in the radio links today at tedhart.com, click on radio, you will find a link to Penelope Burk's latest blog posting, and in there is a link where you can register to get notification about the 2011 Cygnus Donor Survey report, and I'm sure that in doing that, Penelope will also keep you posted on the upcoming research and webinars. Next up here on the Nonprofit Coach, next week we are off. There is no show next week. Your host will be in Toronto at the Digital Leap Conference. I'm hoping that anyone who is within driving distance can join us, and you can get all that information at digitalleap.org. Our next Nonprofit Coach show, you can mark it down on your calendars, will be on Tuesday, April 19th, and our expert here on the show will be Simone Joyaux, who will be talking about keeping donors. And I'm actually going to have the opportunity to have dinner with Simone up in Providence, Rhode Island on Thursday, so I'm looking forward to seeing her and preparing for that show on April 19th. So Penelope Burk, thank you so much for coming on the show again. Absolutely bang-up show today, just as you did back in December. I look forward to having you on the show again real soon.
Thanks, Ted, for inviting me. Talk to you soon.
Take care, everyone. Have a great couple of weeks. We'll be back here on 15th.
When it comes to cleaning your house, who doesn't wish un galán with a trust fund swept in and passed the mop to your evil stepmom like in the telenovelas? Hola, it's Chiquis here, and although life isn't always like in the soap operas, Fabuloso does bring a clean that's always over the top. Get your home dramatically clean anytime you like, without any evil mama drama. Just long-lasting lavender freshness. That's Fabuloso, taking the drama out of any mess.
Fabuloso's 2x concentrated formula provides 2 times more active ingredients versus non-concentrated Fabuloso Original. Use as directed.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply.